Hey everybody, this is Bila, and today we're discussing Marvel Rivals Season 1.5, the balance changes. We're not going to be discussing the patch notes. Alright, the numbers are the numbers. You do not need me to tell you what the numbers mean. Instead, we're going to be talking about the overall gameplay changes, what they mean, and how we're going to see the changes interact with each other, do a forecast for how the game is going to play out. So as you look at the patch notes, you're going to notice a trend. The healing ultimates in the game are the focus of this patch. The reason for that is that right now in higher levels of the game, there's a growing strategy of the 3 healer playstyle. What's happening here is that certain healers have ultimates that essentially make the team invincible for a period of time. There are some cases where you can get through this, but essentially, most scenarios, the team just becomes invincible for a period of time. So, if you have more of these invincible ultimates than your opponent does, then ideally, you will always outlast them. As it is right now, when one team activates a healing ultimate, the other team is essentially stuck. They can't do anything. Nothing that they do matters, right? And so they become extremely vulnerable. So then that team needs to activate their healing ultimate so that their team doesn't collapse under the period of not being able to hurt the other team. So then what ends up happening is neither team is doing anything. Neither team is able to kill the other team, so fights are lasting longer, and there's periods of time in these fights where nothing is happening, where neither team is really able to do anything meaningful. So they're trying to reduce this. But if you take this a step further, and you keep in mind the thing that I'm talking about, where if you have more of these ultimates, you'll outlast the team. If you have 3 of these ultimates and the other team does not, if they have 2 of these ultimates, theoretically, you will spend more time invincible than that other team will, and there's nothing that other team can do about it. So what they're doing right now is they're trying to make it harder to build up those ultimates so that it's harder to be in the situation where you have access to all 3 of these ultimates in a fight. They're trying to make it take longer to get to that point. So they're trying to keep the strength of these healing ultimates while reducing the frequency. Now, ideally, what this does is it makes it less advantageous to always run 3 healing ultimates, but it doesn't negate that strategy. It doesn't make it to where it's unplayable now, and I like that. I like the idea of a game like this still maintaining the flexibility of rules, still maintaining the ability to use imbalance. I like the idea of being able to situationally run a 1-3-2 comp and maintaining your balance 2-2-2. I like the idea of being able to run a 2-1-3 if you need to. I like the idea of being able to vary things up and have a little bit of imbalance and everything have a strength to it. Everything have a time and a role inside of a game. But I don't like the idea of one of these compositions being better than everything else. And it's at a dangerous point where this 3 support composition, this 3 healing ultimate composition, is getting really close to that. So what I foresee is hopefully this 3 support strategy still having some use, but just not being as strong as it used to be and not being as advantageous to run. Now, the drawback here is that, you know what, potentially it could still be just as advantageous, because if it is harder to build up these ultimates, then having a third ultimate just means that it's even stronger than it was before, because once all three of you have access to this, you know that it's going to take longer for that other team to be able to get to that position where they can compete with your third ultimate again. So there is still a chance that this could be tough, but I do have a suspicion that it is going to find a better middle ground than where it is right now. In the future, as the frequency of these healing ultimates go down, I would foresee that damage is going to become a lot more effective. Damage is going to mean more because it's going to be harder to out-heal the damage. So damage character stock is going way up. And if the damage gets to a point where it is starting to run a little bit higher than what is ideal, maybe, damage is starting to run amok and we're starting to see that heals don't feel strong enough, I have a suspicion that before healing goes back to where it was, or before it gets raised up, we might see a buff to tanks before that. Potentially. We would see a buff to tanks before that. I don't expect these ultimate nerfs to get reverted quickly, but maybe they would find a little bit of a middle ground. I would expect the tanks to maybe receive a buff before then, but let me know what you think. What do you think about the change to the ultimates? Do you think that it's enough to fix the problem, or do you think that it's just going to exacerbate the problem and just make it even worse if you're not running that third extra heal because it's taking longer for you to build up and to be able to compete? Let me know if you think that the damage is going to start overlapping, or if you think that the damage is in a good enough place without the frequency of these heal nerfs. If you enjoyed this video, I'd highly appreciate it if you left a like. You can also share it with someone that you think might enjoy it as well. In the meantime, I hope you're enjoying Marvel Rivals as much as I am. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.